Welcome to No Clip. I'm Chad Rutherman.
I'm Andy Koenig.
And I'm JJ Artemis.
And today we're going to be talking about Undertale. This is a game that was developed and self-published by a guy named Toby Fox. So it was made in Game Maker, meaning that, there's not a whole lot of, fidelity that goes into it. It was just sort of...
like a small aesthetic?
Kind of like a small aesthetic, I guess.
It is very heavily inspired by Earthbound.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It's not trying to hide it.
Yeah.
Plenty of other things.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, when I started into this game, all I knew basically was that it was an RPG, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised that it harkened back so closely to Earthbound. Because Earthbound's one of those games that I have, a soft spot for. It's a game that I played when I was a kid and really enjoyed it, and then played it again as an adult and enjoyed it even more. But it definitely, from the character design to the enemy design to the encounter design, very
world design.
Yeah, very Earthbound. It's not as surreal as Earthbound because it takes place in its own self-contained world that it's really very unapologetic for.
Yeah,
the game never seeks to set up a reason for its world to be the way it is. It just is, and so you lose that unsettling vibe that Earthbound gave off, but I think this game benefits from it.
It was certainly unsettling in other respects.
Yeah, it's got its moments.
Yeah. Frankly, I'm just glad that me going out on a limb and playing the first hour of this game and being like, oh, this is totally something good enough for the cast.
For the past.
Yeah. I'm really happy that just that little hunch of mine managed to reel in this thing. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that it was... I'd heard that it was a good game, but the game affects you in a way, that, very... it does a good job of, actively, bringing the player into, the feeling it's trying to give off. That vibe, which a lot of games just don't pull off at all.
What vibe? What do you mean?
The game, you reflect on your actions in the game more in this SNES graphical style, turn-based RPG, more so than in most, full 3D world, immersive action RPGs of the day. Because, the other games just don't have the same sense of, repercussion that this game gives you.
I see.
It makes you, it feels like your actions actually have a reaction. Which is something I definitely want to get into, but I feel like we should back up.
To where?
To stating that this game is a turn-based RPG in an Earthbound SNES style, but its combat itself uses elements of shoot 'em ups and dating simulators, which is what makes the game unique. And I do want to dive into the mechanics, but I don't know if you guys have anything introductory that you want to say, or just build off of that.
What was the name of the developer, publisher?
Toby Fox.
Oh, Toby Fox. Good job. Email incoming.
We'll find his contact information. Send him off a good job email.
We'll find you.
I thought the game was total garbage. But they're going to make me talk about it anyway.
Yeah, it happens.
Mm.
So no, you want to just launch pad into...
Yeah, it's just launch pad into whatever you were...
You're giving him a look. I'm
about.
pretty sure he's being sarcastic.
What? Oh, I'm not...
Oh, yeah, I was
giving
being
anyone a look.
sarcastic for anybody who doesn't know me.
No, I'm not giving... The only look I'm giving off is me still attempting to process what has happened in the last, 5 hours of my life.
Right, yeah. We're within 5 minutes of JJ seeing the, final... Japanese shmup boss battle with Flowey, so...
Shmup?
Yeah, shoot 'em up.
Oh.
Shmup. Yeah, that's the genre.
I have neither played Earthbound nor shoot 'em ups, so...
I'm a big fan of
translate.
both, so...
Yeah. I am a big fan of Earthbound.
Fair enough.
I think shoot 'em ups are okay.
It draws way more heavily from Earthbound than shoot 'em ups, obviously. What the thing, literally the first line in my notes for this episode is just mechanics as tone. And I think that this game, on the way here, I was listening to our podcast on Kingdom Hearts. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I said was that I felt that Kingdom Hearts had too many enemies.
Yeah.
Which drew sort of kind of a confused reaction. But, like, letting that, like, percolate for a while, I've come to the conclusion that this game helped me reach. That if you look, that I have a common complaint with a lot of, like, big AAA games, in that a lot of games put whatever your primary mechanic is in as, like, almost as filling. Where you see, like, a shooter come out that has, like, standard shooter mechanics just because that's, like, what you do in the game. Mm-hmm. It's like, what do you do? You walk from point A to point B, and guys will come up as obstacles, and you shoot them. Because video games are very conflict-driven.
Yeah.
So, and when you look at games, like, there are a lot of, like, bad games. And when you look at bad games, like, a common through line tends to be the fact that the game didn't do what it did spectacularly well, and additionally, it did not try something different. And Undertale is a game that did try something different, did it, like, reasonably well. Like, I don't think you could maintain, like, a 20-plus hour game on these mechanics, but it did what it wanted to well, and it was in a completely new, like, realm, where they added, like, the mechanics of the, like, shoot-'em-up dodge mechanics and stuff like that. I feel like I'm monologuing at this point.
Oh, no. And another thing that I really like about the mechanics is how they continue to escalate throughout the whole game.
Right.
Like, each like, boss fight introduces a new spin on the mechanics, and they keep getting more difficult as it goes on, which I really like.
I'm really, really glad and actually surprised that I or no one else on the internet that I heard before this had actually thought of the, like, turn-based RPG plus shoot-'em-up combination, because that works so well when it allows you to, like, still establish, like, tension in these fights like this, but not have to have the pacing constantly be hectic.
Right.
It's because if I'm comparing it to, like, one of the Final Fantasy games or something, when I'm navigating through these menus, like, the point of tension, if there is one, assuming you don't already know what's going to happen after you press, like, the fight button, which is true in a whole lot of these games, the only point of tension is, like, did I hit or not, or something, if you have a miss.
Right, yeah, what's the RNG?
Right. But with this mechanic set, even with things that aren't the shoot-'em-up mechanic, even with just dialogue stuff, you have that same sort of, like, menu-driven combat, where you have a whole lot of time to sort of sit down and process things before going into the next high point, but you don't have that certainty either. You aren't literally just selecting what's going to happen from a menu and aren't able to think about, like, everything that's going to happen in advance like you could with other, like, Final Fantasy style RPGs. You select your actions and there's just, like, just constant uncertainty about what's going to go on, like, now and in the future. I just love the mechanical combination. It makes things feel tense in a way that's normally only possible with, like, real-time action games, while also providing a whole lot of the benefits that turn-based combat systems do.
Yeah, like, as I had mentioned in the unreleased Poke Trash cast, like, one of the things that, like, you have to do when you're developing a turn-based RPG is you have to find a way to make that mechanic feel new again, because originally it was, like, a limitation of the time, where it was, like, people couldn't make the combat more, like, fluid and still achieve, like, the level of fidelity that they strove for. But in this game, they change it in a way that makes it, while still maintaining the menu-based combat of an RPG, keeps it entertaining and gives you, like, something to do and something that switches it up and sets it apart. And the, like, level of variety in this game in encounters is, like, off the charts for something with, like, what is such a low budget game.
Yep.
There's so much, like, difference of kind.
Yeah, that was a big surprise for me. Was, like, I knew literally nothing about this game going in, and expected the combat to be exactly like Earthbound, just like a static background, and you mash A until the enemy dies.
Hit it with a bat.
Yeah, and it was such, like, a pleasant surprise to find that there was it was completely different. Like, it looked similar in the static background with an enemy on it, but the combat works completely differently.
Yep.
2 people produced all of this. I just keep...
It was slightly more than 2 people because there were some, like, guest designs for other things. I like in the credits, the Flowey battle is referred to as the Flowey Photoshop battle, and it was like the art was credited to some guy who I guess threw it together in Adobe Photoshop.
What's the most horrifying thing you can make in Photoshop given X time period?
Well, that's like because these are games that I haven't really played because of their limited availability, but that is like a major theme in. Like in old Japanese like PS1 era shoot 'em ups, where like it'll just be some like crazy photorealistic monster lobbing body parts and bombs at you, and it's like just creepy and weird. But I that's just like part of the aesthetic.
Oh man, I never knew that. That was the first time I experienced anything remotely like that in my life.
You probably found it more horrifying than funny then.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be funny?
Well, no, I mean,
I mean, Chad obviously thinks it's funny.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's a new commentary.
Should stop asking
it's
at this
a monster
point.
that's throwing fingers at you.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
But to bring it back to what I was originally saying, and basically it was the tree of dialogue that I exactly wanted to happen, is that this game nails, through those mechanics, like, managing the theme and tone of the game. Because it's very... Like, when you can just talk with all of the monsters and, like, solve any combat encounter non-violently. Albeit I didn't find a way to do it with a number of the bosses. Mm-hmm. I felt like some of them were a little bit...
over-obscured.
Yeah, like, difficult to get. But, I mean, that's the puzzle. Like, if you're trying to go through the game without killing anything, that's where the challenge comes in, is that you have to actually figure out how to make things, like, mercyable,
right, yeah.
whatever.
This game desperately wants you to play it multiple times.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I'm kind of, like, I'm a little bit upset that I don't really, like, I don't see myself booting this up, at least not for a very long time.
It'll be a while for me too.
Yeah, just from like other obligations, but
right.
It is a game that I would like to go through again, because this is like when I was a kid when I played Metal Gear Solid games. I always played through them normally and then played through them again with a no-kill run, and it's like this game just has a no-kill run built into its story. Yeah. And it's like, I think I do kind of want to do that, even like in that last encounter in the castle, the temple, the new home. With Sans, he says like you're going to be judged on like the number of or the amount of violence that you were willing to perpetrate or something.
Right. Yeah.
And like I thought that was going to translate into the final battle being something like the sorrow from Metal Gear Solid 3. Yeah, because which is hilarious in a no-kill run of that game because you just walk down a river and nothing happens. But I doubted this game would do it that similarly. But
I know of the existence of those diverging trees, but I haven't looked into them. Mostly because I don't want them spoiled because I like this game so much.
I kind of wanted to talk about them.
Yeah,
well, if you know like specific facts of Sure, you can go ahead. I'm okay with that.
Well, my original plan was during the break. It's a little behind the scenes for you guys. During the break, I was going to look up specifics on them, and
we
can talk about
we can save it for then, so we have most correct information.
And then our podcast can have multiple endings.
Yeah, I don't want to be miscredited by saying something wrong on the internet.
True. God knows we haven't done that. Fuck. Oh, but yeah, but it does lead into, I think, I've already talked to Andy a little bit about this. One of the complaints that I had with this game is that I feel like there's a certain air of, I'm going to use this term, ludonarrative dissonance in the idea of, like, your experience points and level being linked more of, like, a measure of how cruel you are. Because I feel like you kind of... Like you said on the Shadow of the Colossus cast, if like you weren't supposed to notice that you were becoming worse off, it seems like a thing where the rug was pulled out from under you. Because I know that going through, like at the beginning, the game doesn't give you any incentive to not use the fight menu.
Yeah.
Like it tells you. basically, I think the clues that I've discerned are that the person who originally tries to teach you to fight turns out to be, like, the most evil being in the galaxy. And that, like, the monsters themselves look cute and that which doesn't even carry through. There's some pretty horrifying looking monsters.
Yeah.
And also, like, their little blurbs tend to be generally non-threatening.
Right. But they're also openly hostile to you.
Yeah, like, they attack you no matter what you do.
I think it's important to note that I don't know if it's in all of the cases, but in many of the cases, they're harming you accidentally or because of a misunderstanding. I remember that there was...
Frogget doesn't know what it's doing here.
Right. There's that little volcano being
who thinks it
who thinks it's lava heals you.
That's my favorite enemy, by the way. I just like to put that in the books.
But even through all of that, I think, well, the point of the game is that the motivating force to try and be nonviolent, I think it was an active choice to not try and incentivize nonviolence mechanically. I think its equivalent to, like, a mechanical incentive was just trying to build, like, distinct personalities into the characters, and that was a recurring through line through the whole game, even with things that were demonized, I guess probably with the exception of Flowey, but he's intentionally an exception to everything in the game.
Right.
Is that no matter how bad or, like, how strong or evil something is, like, initially introduced to you, it always has some kind of, like, silly, even, like, possibly joyous monster side, and I think it's reflected the best in Undine, who is, like, a generic, like, knight coming to kill you through the majority of the game, but even then, within the final conflict, like, takes off the horror mask and is now just, like, a stupid fish-human hybrid thing.
Well, which I still found a little bit scary.
It's sure she's like a pirate. You know, the iPad.
She's like a Black Lagoon, like swamp creature.
But the point is that even she was the, like, sort of, like, cartoony monster that, like, all the other beings in the fantasy games are, and it's supposed to link. And then she's still, like, this, like, distinct person with her own, like, wants and dreams and personalities. She introduces herself into that fight, doing her best to talk about how, like, she's the hero, and not in a way that's supposed to be like tongue-in-cheek, what the game is trying to say something bad about her. Like, it's legitimately trying to play her up as, like, a good person. And it does that subtly with a lot of the dialogue choices when they personify even one of the most generic enemies that you ever face. The incentive is supposed to be, these are just people. There might be screwed up people. They all have their, like, stupid little problems, and they might even be people that you dislike. But they're still dudes, and it's up to you whether or not you want to kill these dudes to further your personal goals. Because it is easier to do that.
Right, yeah.
Reflected most strongly for when I saw your save file where you had 68 health, and I was the most envious human being.
Yeah, what level were you by the end of the game?
1. I killed one thing, got 4 experience points, and went through the whole game with 20 health.
Huh.
Right. But that sucks.
I always like to say that I called that. Go with the pacifist route.
This is where I feel like the game fails on a mechanical level. Definitely not tonally, because, like, no matter what you do, with the exception of what would have been your, like, ultimate final ending, which would have been a huge letdown and made you cry, is the fact that if you even kill one thing and get 4 experience for it, you don't get
the true passive.
Yeah, the good ending in big quotes.
True, in that sense I kind of did the worst thing, but it was a learning experience, and I'm glad that I did go through it that way, because I was able, like, I made the mistake, and I guess I wish the game would have acknowledged that and given me the chance to, like, admit to it that I realized very fast that it was a mistake, but I'm uncertain if it wants to do that, because at a certain level, the game, especially during, like, the final sand scene where they do this a little bit corny, like, experience means this, level means this,
level
twist.
is love, and whatever.
The very beginning. Oh, no, yeah, the end of it, yeah.
It makes it very explicit that it's asking, like, you to think about all of these things. I was actually surprised by that, because once I started going through that, I assumed that, like you did, that there would be, like, a change in the final boss circumstance based on the number of things I killed, like in Metal Gear Solid.
Right.
But instead of doing that, they were just like, we're not going to judge you specifically, just reflect back on what you did, and if you think that it was worth it. I don't know if that's I might be ascribing too much to the developers here, but given how much they did accomplish, I'm willing to do so and assume that it was an intentional choice, that they just wanted you to be able to reflect on your own actions and have that be the force of its own.
But that's the thing, though. For me, like, that's the part that I find to be, like, difficult to kind of grapple with, because I feel like the game is not trying to make a statement on, like, violence in video games or something, like, meta like that, or, like, why do you, like, insist on killing things in games? The game is just sort of trying to tell a story in its own world, and I don't think that the way they went about, like, the end of the game being like, well, if you killed anything, then you get, like, the neutral ending, and it treats you the same as somebody who killed 99% of things.
True, yeah. That's very valid. Even if it didn't give the redemption opportunity that I sort of hoped existed, naive as it may be, I mean, real-world analogy, if, you kill someone, oftentimes you don't get the same opportunity to redeem, but it still should have the gradient either way.
Yeah. I mean, though, like you said, like, going back to the developer, like, we can't hold it against the game as, like, a major flaw in it because it's one guy. Like, the amount of, like, extra work it would have taken to create a branching narrative that accounted for that gradient.
Now, I think that's one of my biggest problems with the game is, like, it almost feels like a cheap way of getting you to play it multiple times. Like, I feel like 95% of people are going to kill Toriel at the beginning of the game, because it's just kind of set up for that to happen, and if you do that, you don't get the good ending, and you're going to have to play it again.
That's what blew my mind when we were talking earlier at dinner, and that you didn't know this was a thing. Because I assumed that that Flowey as an antagonist would be a bit more active than he was in the actual rest of the game. Because I assumed that setting, that the thing that I thought was a crit, where you like kill at the end, I thought that was there, like, built into the system that would happen every time, so that you would do what I did and be like, that's bullshit, and you reload the save and you save scum, and then you go back and the game tells you that it knows that you did that.
Yeah.
And I assumed that there would be further things where you'd have to actually mess with your save files or do some of the more meta stuff that the game often hinted at, all the fourth wall breaking to try and beat this other antagonist force.
I thought your reaction to that was kind of fascinating because, for me, the way the story opens is you're just in a cave or whatever, and
pretty typical RPG.
Yeah, and then this rabbit woman just kind of comes in, is hey, and then leads you hand and foot through to her house, and I'm the whole time I'm she's gonna be evil. She just swooped right in here, and she's, trying to gain my trust to make me trust her, and, I feel like she's gonna end up being evil. So, and then when I had to fight her, I'm oh, here we go.
But, I mean, did you even
She ended up not being that way, but I was, super suspicious of her. I found it really creepy, the whole beginning of, the tutorial with her.
Well, it's supposed to make you uneasy, that's
right,
sure.
Yeah.
Because she's very, very willing to just sort of adopt you.
Right.
But it doesn't make her an evil person.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, I was real suspicious, so I was, I didn't really think as much of it when I killed her.
Yeah, it wasn't until later in the game when I realized that critical hits weren't a thing.
Yeah.
That I actually realized that was a scripted sequence, because I was at very low HP, and the crit at the end to kill Taria only did 120 or 130, whatever was remaining in her bar, and it wasn't it didn't seem outlandish. That it could have just been 150% of my normal damage.
Oh,
and I was just oh, that was lucky. And then just proceeded through the game.
Well, I don't actually know if it's scripted. You guys have to correct me, because you did combat a lot more.
It is scripted.
Okay.
Yeah. It's once you get her down to a third of her health or something, she kneels.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's she gives up or something, and then whenever you hit her, it just does the rest of her damage.
Because I remember from the very beginning, there's some kind of mechanic where you can get enemies very low on health and then spare them, right?
Yeah.
That's a thing?
I thought that's the only way you could do that.
Yeah. Me too, until the Teriel fight. Where I couldn't risk attacking her anymore.
The name will turn yellow.
That's
when you
that's
spare them.
literally the whole way I played the game.
Well,
was
he
trying
means
to make
like
that
it
name
turns
yellow.
yellow from attacks as well.
Yeah,
is what he's
Yeah,
saying.
once you get to low health, the name turns yellow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, as I was playing through the initial part, see, I played the game, like, pragmatically, I guess I would call it, where I would spare people if it seemed like a thing that would benefit me, and kill people when I felt it would benefit me more in the other direction. And it's like that whole introductory bit with the puzzles in the cave seems like... I feel like it shouldn't count, really, towards your kill count, because like it kind of just teaches you the mechanics of the combat, where it's like, if you kill somebody, you get experience and gold. If you spare them, you just get gold. And, like, I went through and I, like, spared a bunch of people, I killed a bunch of other people, but before I had left the tutorial zone, and he said that I had used the act button more than he had in the whole game.
Yeah. I spared, like, a couple of enemies... felt like it seemed kind of useless and I didn't want to experiment with it anymore.
Right.
And then just killed everything else.
Dude, question. Do you still get gold if you kill things, or you do just get experience?
You
get
and
both.
gold.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder what...
It's just like
gold
strictly
benefit.
better.
Yeah, like,
to
I don't
kill.
know. I don't know what it was. It's just like, for some reason, like, I didn't feel the incentive to, like, mess with the mechanics as much.
Right. Some of the enemies were too cute for me to want
Yeah,
to
like,
kill.
I think it might have been...
I never killed Jerry, for instance.
Who was Jerry?
Jerry's
The
just
ice
like
guy?
yeah, he'll just show up and it'll be like,
Oh.
Jerry says he has to go to the bathroom, and then
Okay.
your act
Yeah.
options are ditched.
Yeah, I wouldn't have killed that character. But,
Right.
like, I think it was the enemies in, like, the tutorial area that they all seemed really derpy. And I'm like, I don't know, like, it
But
all
that's
just...
horrifying, right? That's a horrifying reason to kill a living thing.
No, I mean, like, that's not why I killed them. It's just, like, there was something about, like, interacting with the characters didn't seem very rewarding
Right. Well, I mean,
in that, like, circumstance, so it's like, whatever.
I also disagree that it's a horrifying reason to kill a living thing because, like, well, I mean, not
It could
that
be,
by
like, a horrible
itself.
mutated.
Yeah, it's like because like the first day, like Frogget doesn't know what's happening or why it's there, but then which is what happens when you check it, which uses a turn
Yeah.
and then puts you in a situation where it then damages you. And you, like, if I saw a frog and I didn't think the frog was aware of what it was doing, but the frog injured me, I would probably kill it or run away from it. Like I wouldn't like talk the frog down.
Yeah, like, I kind of played the game similar way to Chad.
Yeah, well, I hit a breaking point in my game.
Well, until you hit the breaking point.
Yeah, I hit a wall, and apparently I went too cold for Andy, even.
Yeah.
Because around halfway through the game, you have the boss fight with Undyne.
Yeah.
And going against Undyne, the very first, like, line of dialogue is like, you've just been walking through here killing people haphazardly.
Yeah.
It's like, you killed Lesser Dog. I'm like, I spared Major Dog.
Oh man, you killed
Or
Lesser
greater-
Dog and
I
tracked that?
I,
Oh man.
Yeah, I killed Lesser Dog and I spared Greater Dog.
You damn well better spare Greater Dog.
Yeah, well, Greater
The
Dog
greatest
was the
dog.
obvious, like, better one.
I killed them both.
Fuck you, Greater Dog is my spirit animal.
I mean, I didn't say he wasn't cool.
But at that point, I was just like, this game doesn't care about the good things I do. It only cares about the bad things I do. And then from that point on, I was on a warpath. I spared no one else. I killed every single enemy. I killed every boss. I didn't even attempt to, like, spare major characters. The only things I spared were things where I felt like it was easier to spare them than to kill them.
Okay. Do you think any of the good things you could even hypothetically do within, like, the narrative of Undertale would outweigh murder?
Well, I'm speaking from the perspective of, like, the way that I felt about the game from, like, my
While you were
character.
playing it.
Because, like, you think, like, if they already basically... Which I was actually going to ask about this.
Yeah.
Do you remember the turtle character in the waterfall?
Yeah.
When he described the prophecy, did he put in that line about some people saying that the circle represents an angel of death?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Because that was post-Warpath.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't sure if that, like, was a unique thing. Because,
Post-Warpath. God.
but I was like, I clearly didn't understand what I was doing before. as like a 10-year-old kid wearing a striped shirt, walking around. I was like, I didn't know what I was doing before. All I care about now, because obviously my crimes are irreparable, is getting out and making it out with my life. And so I just, like, I'm going to do everything in my power to be as strong and powerful as I can be to just blaze through the, like, gauntlet of horrible monsters and make it back to the human world.
God, you're, like, literally a prison inmate.
I was like, I didn't see redemption in my future.
The game only cares about the bad things you do unless you do all the good
things.
And you're rewarded at the end.
Right?
Agree. Should have been the gradient. For that matter, I think another possible line of gradation that's really important is, since now I know that the whole lowering and attacking enemies till they're very weak and then sparing them is like it's the same result as just outright sparing them and never attacking them. Right. That's a really important distinction, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like the kind of person who would beat people to the point where they can no longer resist and be like, I'm going to leave you alive since you're not a threat to me. And
seems
the kind of
worse.
Who just folds his arms and is like, I will never hurt you. Or like really, really distinct human beings. And I think the pacifist ending was put in specifically to try and, I mean, to apply that line of gradation somewhat, but we still agree that there's not enough there. Mm-hmm. By the way, when you're talking about Undyne, the reason it took me so long comparatively to beat this game is because when Undine, I say
Undyne. It's just the Y makes it seem like an I sound.
Sure,
I don't know why.
Undyne. When she said that like you could like never spare her, I didn't believe her and just kept going. I spent like I had single runs of trying to beat her like last night that were like 40 minutes or something.
What do you mean when you could never... Because I don't know, because I just beat her.
That makes sense.
Death.
Yeah, okay. I killed her too, so...
you can still, even though she says that, you still have the option to just keep sparing her all the time, like you can all the other enemies. But she just gets harder, and she just keeps getting harder.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I just met that force, because she has that line in the beginning talking about you have to like face your problems head on.
Yeah.
So that made me not realize the flee solution. Which is, that's probably another thing you don't know.
Yeah, I know.
The actual way that you non-lethal her, which I eventually found out when I gave up, because I realized that the things on screen were moving faster than I could,
right,
and were thus undodgeable. What you have to do is you have to flee from her whenever your heart gets out of the green mode, whenever you're like back to moving around.
Right.
And then you run away, and she catches you a couple of times, and you have to run to a specific point where eventually the heat makes her armor get so much because she's a fish that she like falls unconscious, and then you give her water, she says nothing and leaves and is never seen again, at least by me. Yeah, but the first time I did that, it took me a long time to realize that fleeing was a thing because I'd never fleed at any other point in the game then. So I just tried over and over again to just beat her head on and just to beat her. So I spent like hours just like grinding against her like attempting
to... I thought she was the hardest boss in the game.
Right. Because that was the point of the game where I like had my like mental breakdown. That boss was that's I think my second favorite encounter in the entire game. Mm-hmm. And one is because it was a rhythm game, like a la like One Finger Death Punch, where I was just like, because I always checked opponents up until that point before doing anything to them to get like the additional information, and like I went in, checked her, it had some dialogue box thing, and then I tried to do the action that matched like how you do when you're doing a non-lethal playthrough.
Yeah.
And I tried to pick the action that most, like, reflected what information it gave me. And it was just like, the spears became faster. And I was like, weird. And so I did it again, and it was like, the spears became even faster. And I was like, oh no. And so I started fighting her, and just fucking wrecked it. And I was like, that was the only time playing this game when I was just like, yeah, like sit back, like I'm the king of this very lightly skill-based game.
That's the one I had to do the most times. That was the hardest boss in the whole game.
Oh my god!
Like, because I thought like the whole build-up to her was really good. Like she didn't talk; she just chased you.
Yeah.
And then when you get to her, and then like, so I finished the fight on like 3 health. And then, she keeps trying to fight you, and I'm like, I have to just kill her before she kills me. I don't want to do this all over.
It gets slower and slower.
And then, she keeps, not dying, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to kill this character.
Right. She killed me once, but it was when she was throwing spears at me on a bridge.
Oh, yeah.
I just, I got wrecked by that. I, came into it at low health, and, got killed halfway through. When you die and respawn, it sets you back at full health, though, which is super nice.
Yeah. Even the spear sequences leading up were, diverse and enjoyable.
Yeah.
But, the sequence when you're in, the maze-like area... where they're coming out in seemingly random ground patterns.
Right.
That was great. With the run music was great.
Yeah, I mean I don't know how much we want to talk about the music, but the music in this game was very well done. In terms of chiptune games, which are there's a plethora of them at this point.
Yeah.
This one has this one hits that Koji Kondo catchy, I
think it's a little bit of an over.
It's okay. That's more of a compliment than it may deserve.
Right.
But it does it's the short,
catchy.
Repetitive kind of sticks with you and never gets annoying.
I found myself enjoying the music as I was playing, but I can't say any of the music stuck with me.
One stuck with me, which actually while driving here, I pulled up my phone again to listen to, and it brought a specific point in mind as far as the music connects with the story. I was looking up the song because I'd forgotten it that plays during the Teriel fight, because I remember it being particularly effective.
Right.
And that song specifically, and after I looked, a lot of the other actual combat-based songs have a very nice build to it. And it makes you feel even the music in those combat sequences attempt to pull the rug out from under you in the same way that the entirety of the game was, all fourth wall breaks.
Yeah.
Where it started with these kind of generic chiptuned things that you would expect given the presentation of the game, and then shifts to something a whole lot more emotional and affecting in the same way that the game does. And I can appreciate that about it.
Probably expected my favorite tracks in the game were the silliest tracks, which are... I really like Flowey's theme, and I really like the skeleton theme.
Not annoying dog? You're not a fan of the annoying dogs?
Oh, no. Dude, this might be a bit of a tangent, but I will fully admit that there are 2 things in this game that I Googled.
While you were playing it?
While I was playing it.
Yeah.
One
you bastard.
Was if I could get back the snowman piece, because I accidentally ate it while I was trying to check the information on it. I was like, info, but then I hit diagonal instead of right on the control stick, and it just stayed on use, and it was like, you ate the snowman piece. I was like, fuck you.
I ended up eating it too, but it was because I had no other healing items.
Yeah, as you saw, I didn't have it at the end of the game. I went back and got it, and then came all the way back to Hotland, and ended up having to use it in a panic moment on the Metaton fight.
I think that's where I used it too.
I kept it the whole time, and I have no idea what to do with it. So
at the very end, when Sans leaves you a message, he says, "You made a snowman very happy." That's the only difference.
Cute.
But the second thing was, and I think that everyone here can appreciate this, is that I legitimately, within the rules of the game, solved the music box puzzle.
Whoa!
But could not put the tones together to play the song because I am completely tone deaf.
You are pretty tone deaf.
I tried for 8 minutes and I was like, I want to know what's behind the wall. I know the answer. I physically can't do it. So I just looked up what the combination was.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Is what I did.
Put it in. Please tell me the same thing happened to you. Because I walked behind the wall. It says there's an ancient artifact, spelled with an E because they fucking wanted to be as, fucking Baroque as possible about it. And then went to pick it up and it says, you can't pick it up because you are carrying too many dogs. And I was like, what? So I went into my inventory, and sure enough, there's a small dog as an item. And so I was like, use. And it says, you deployed the dog. The dog comes out, grabs the artifact, and then leaves. And then it's never seen again. So, I looked up the answer to the puzzle, solved it, and then nothing happened.
Did you pick up what the dog left?
Yeah, the one that multiplies in your inventory indefinitely? The dog dishes?
What was it, like skin? Is it annoying dog skin? Or
No,
like
it's
remains?
like it's annoying dog something, and then that's a healing item, and then if you use it, you get dog dishes, which are not dishes that you put dog food in, but dishes that a dog neglected to clean, which then, over time, multiply in your inventory and fill it up. So you have to put it in a box.
It was very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's... Same thing happened to me.
Okay, good.
Trying to get it, too much dog. I just tried to drop it. Dropping it instead of using it also just deploys the dog.
Yeah, you deploy
the dog. Just goes out, grabs it, runs away. But I was pleasantly surprised. Although I didn't know if this was like a one-time thing or if there's a way to manipulate this. But sometimes when you use like the dog remains, whatever those things are called, to copy, you'll get dog salad instead of
dog
copy.
salad.
Yeah. And I kept trying to like, oh man, this means like get infinite health items. And I tried for like 2 minutes and I was like, I'm never doing this again. This is nothing but horrible dog skins. It just keeps multiplying itself.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. Rough. Dog. Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah, no, this game is full of like interesting little moments like that.
Do you guys go on the date with Papyrus?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't much of a date.
Wait, but you didn't get the phone number. I checked your inventory when on your thing. You didn't have Papyrus' phone number.
How do you get his phone number? I went on the date.
He
called me and he was like, how did I get this number? I tried all numbers sequentially until I got this phone.
Yeah, that happened to me too.
Yeah.
What happened on your date? Because at the end of the date, he was like, oh, we should exchange phone numbers.
On my date, we just went to his house.
And then?
I interacted with everything that you could interact with, and then I left.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
I even went back and talked to him. He didn't do that.
Wait, you didn't have the date fight?
No.
Oh, it goes into a fight sequence for the date, and it's like the most ridiculous thing imaginable. He dresses up as a football player.
It's not more ridiculous than his boss fight, I can tell you right now.
Yes, it is.
There's no way.
It has its own like exclusive music. It's like it's some ridiculous tone thing. That whole sequence was proof of the amount of love that was put into this whole project, because I just went back just assuming it would be like a couple lines of text of like dismissive dialogue, and I just like the rabbit hole just kept going on with this day, just deeper and deeper, just more shit. I thought that there was like going to be some kind of like horrible love thing, because he kept like interacting with you in a way that like, oh, this is a date. Let's go to your room to do what people do on dates.
Yeah, to do what they do.
Yeah, so things got subtly rapey real fast, and it was.
I wouldn't go that far.
Neither would I. I was just saying that because I joked about it, because I was texting Rachel at the time just to be like, to show off like how ridiculous this video game was. Like, I'm taking screenshots. You had to like at one point search his body to try and find a gift, which was of course spaghetti under his football helmet hat whatever he was wearing.
I wonder what we didn't do.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's his boss fight. His boss fight like was the fucking cap on why Papyrus is like the most well-developed 12-year-old in gaming. Because like,
give him an award.
There's like so many like goofy things that he does leading up to that, and then at the very end, like you have that boss fight with him, and he's like, "Here's my special attack," and like it like rolls by, and it's like a picture of his face, and it says "cool guy." I'm like, this is what I would do if I was designing my attack pattern, and I'm 12 years old, so this only makes sense. No, I really liked Papyrus as a character. Like, I thought he was just super good.
Yeah, I kind of felt a little similarly to him as I did to the one dinosaur character later.
The kid?
No, not the kid. The scientist.
That
I felt like they interrupted gameplay way too much.
I'll agree with in at least the Aphis case, but I don't have bad memories with Papyrus.
Papyrus was funnier and not as bad, but I still felt like every time you walked into a new screen, you had to talk to him. It's like a ton of dialogue.
Right.
Her, whatever.
Yeah.
I actively disliked that character. Like, I thought it was like
the scientist.
Yeah.
I
thought that she just like actually detracted from the game in a certain way.
Yeah, it's very like a Navi kind of thing, but even worse.
And no, that like all of her jokes are sort of like, and I'm sure this is the kind of thing that there are going to be people who like super disagree with us on this, or with us. But I don't know how you feel, but like I felt that even her jokes and stuff was very like one trick pony. Like
they were. It was
It's just that she had a crush on you.
Well, and also like the
anime
lonely
nerd.
anime nerd thing,
Yeah.
which is like, yeah, whatever.
She got better when, I don't know if this is also something that you encounter, but when you like break through her skin and she begins to like talking about her own loneliness, that was. Yep, that happened for me.
That happened for me.
Yeah, she's talking about how she like before she met you, she was in like a really dark place in her life.
Oh no, yeah, this did happen.
Okay.
I just dismissed it because I hope that she dies.
You had already been.
That didn't
down.
happen.
I
No,
really-
but I was on the warpath.
You were on the warpath at
Yeah,
that point.
I
so it
just
didn't
found
matter.
her really annoying, and I also just didn't care what she said.
She was
Yeah, I
annoying.
agree with
She
that.
was worse developed than the other characters. I'm still okay with her existence.
Did you eat the noodles?
What?
The noodles from her fridge?
Yes.
It's
Why?
hilarious.
What? I don't. What? What
You-
happened?
when you use the noodles in combat, which I did in a dire moment in the Metaton fight, the
Oh,
only boss
yeah.
fight that I died on, it's like,
That
the noodles
was
will be
really
ready in
funny.
4 minutes.
Oh yeah.
The
I
noodles
forgot
will be
about
ready in
that.
3 minutes.
Oh my god!
And then
With
they
the
heal
huge
you up
waves.
6 HP.
Yeah.
Which, to you, must have been like a godsend.
Yeah.
To me, it was like.
It was like nearly half of your health. But for me, it was less than a tenth.
Yeah, that's one of my, like, a standout moment for me, too.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Oh,
So good.
everything is good.
Everything is good and nothing is bad.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but
Well, that's not
Right,
a
yeah.
huge
And, like,
exaggeration. I just
another
love the game.
thing, if we're talking about things that we didn't like,
Yeah.
that I'll bring up, is initially when I started the game, I felt, like, really, like, underwhelmed by it, because it just kind of felt like a Diet Earthbound. And it's
Sure.
like, yeah, before it, like, hit its stride and, like, showed all the things that it did different, like, I was like, I feel like I'm going to be disappointed by this. So I was worried at first.
I did one of the like
Because I feel like all the similarities to Earthbound hurt this game rather than benefit it,
right. It
in
was
my opinion.
it was definitely like a love letter to Earthbound, like,
Yeah.
from the outset.
Right, yeah.
I had no point of comparison, so
Yeah, like even like the thing that like looking at this game, it looks like Earthbound.
It looks not exactly the same, but like very, very, very similar.
Yeah, it does look similar, and like one of the things that like I really like made the connection between the two games is when like the first time you get a new weapon, which for I think everyone would be the tough glove. It like spits out what your old weapon was into your inventory, which I just like didn't know what it was. And so it's like the first thing you have is stick.
Yeah.
And then, like, your first armor is bandage.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, man. Like, that's...
which
like,
you can eat weirdly.
you eat the bandage?
Bandage is a health item. You can use it to heal you.
Oh, I put it in a box.
And one of the things that can heal you in the final boss fight is a Band-Aid.
I didn't know it.
Yeah, like, you know...
Oh, you mean
the
final
green things,
boss
yeah.
fight?
Oh,
Okay.
right, yeah.
and
It would've
it's a
been
Band-Aid.
that makes sense.
But, I felt like I was going to say something else. Oh, yeah, there's a more direct reference to Earthbound in that, if you check the date in Earthbound, the year is 1990X.
X, and this is 2010X or whatever.
201X.
Oh, that's what that
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Okay. I had no idea.
You could make an argument that it's a Mega Man reference as well, because those games take place in 20XX. But I think that
Definitely
it's
an
more
Earthbound
clearly an
reference.
Earthbound reference.
Dude, the most direct reference that I found in the game was actually to Final Fantasy VI. Have any of you played that?
No.
I
Dude.
played the beginning of it.
The entire Metaton like drama on stage sequence, that is like literally just a parody of a scene in Final Fantasy VI. Like I bet I could pull up music for you right now, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference whether that music was in this game, which is not Earthbound, but is instead Undertale, or Final Fantasy VI. The music sounds like almost exactly the same. The scene, like the actual layout of the weird little tower thing. You're like in a play sequence at that point in 6. It's just them making fun. Presumably, Final Fantasy's somewhat artificial attempts to like intersect like character drama and like unique individual feelings into their games with moments like that.
Right.
Whereas this game does it by just like developing unique human beings instead of trying to create like sort of grandiose Romeo and Juliet love stories like existed in Final Fantasy VI.
Right.
So presumably that's them just trying to take a jab at that. But I mean, it was literally just pulled. Like, it's like almost 1-to-1.
Yeah. Yeah, like, we make a lot of comparisons, me and Andy make a lot of comparisons to Earthbound, because, like, that is our, like, strongest point of reference. But, like, the game...
Which it will be for anybody who's played it.
Yeah. And but I feel like the game does like largely want to just sort of parallel itself with many RPGs.
Yeah,
of that era.
why I just don't understand that choice for the art style.
Right?
Because I don't. Maybe it's just like for a selling point,
I suppose.
which I would not fault them for. Because you want to get your game out there and everything. But like, I feel like the game would have benefited from a more unique art style that would have new. Its own.
Did Earthbound also have like the same sort of aesthetic with the cartoony aesthetic monsters? Was that also a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Earthbound's like draw is like the goofy monsters and the things they say to you in combat.
Yeah, that's
like you've seen Starman.
I've seen Starman.
Yeah, he's a Smash Brothers. Like it's his trophy.
Yeah, like,
it's the white thing that has its like hands on its sides.
Oh, that guy.
That's from Earthbound. It's goofy.
It's really
goofy, right? I guess I have to see it in pixelated form to be able to make the judgment. Yeah. I'm just thinking about the smoothness of the design of the character in Smash Brothers.
That's true, but yeah,
and Mr. Saturn's from Super Smash.
Super Saturn, Mr. Saturn's from
Earthbound.
A little two-legged guy with a huge nose and a bow in his hair. Yeah. It definitely draws a lot, but it's a large like SNES era RPG throwback.
Right, yeah, it obviously references other stuff.
Yeah, I mean we could probably spend like
it's not as shameful and it's referencing as like Guacamelee or anything.
Right? Yeah, shameless. Actually,
oh, that's what I meant. Yeah, shameless. My bad.
But
it should be more shameful.
Yeah, I'm sure that we could just sit around for a little while and just discuss what jokes landed.
Yeah.
I did want to say one thing is that I just love, you were talking about the theater scene with Medicine, and I love that, like, during most dialogue scenes, they lock you out of control of your character, but in that scene, they let you, like, try to run away from it, but they're just lasers on both sides.
Yes.
So you just can't escape as it happens. That was amusing.
Yep.
But anyway, back to not violating the exact point I was just about to make, is that rather than just talking about what jokes landed, maybe we should take a break and come back and talk about, get into some more, like, character development and plot and stuff like that.
One thing that I wanted to ask you guys, but seems useless now, was, like, which bosses you killed and which ones you didn't, because, like, you killed them all, and
except for Papyrus.
You didn't kill any of them.
Well, so. I killed Teriel, and then saved Scum to correct it, and then was mocked for doing so.
I thought that would be an interesting point of conversation, and it is not.
It's worth noting, I did try to spare Undyne, like, way too late, because when she started fading away, I was just like, oh, mercy, like, don't stress yourself, like, just like, lay down and take it, like, I'm not gonna do anything.
Like, while fading, she still tries to attack you?
Yeah, it just goes really, really slowly. Like, it's really easy to avoid.
She attacks you up until she is completely gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good for her character.
Yeah. So, like, she'll start fading out, and I was just like, whoa, like, spare.
She was the only character I felt like I had to kill.
Oh. And we're gonna postpone the break slightly, because there's one more, like...
Because, like, the characters that I killed were Toriel, because, I thought that was a scripted thing.
Right.
I spared Papyrus, I killed Undyne, I killed the robot, Metatron, or whatever. Megatron.
Roll out.
He showed up.
Yeah.
In my playthrough.
Wow.
I don't know if you unlocked that fight, but I did. And then I spared Asgore. And I killed Flower.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I played it. Yeah, I killed all those people except for Papyrus. Mm-hmm. Whose name, by the way? Did you get the name jokes?
No. Yeah, they were both fonts. And like their
Sans text.
Sans dialogue was written in that font. Papyrus was written in that font.
Oh Sans is Comic Sans, and Papyrus is Papyrus. And like...
of course we would vote.
Yeah, like I mentioned it, and Andy was like, "I bet JJ won't catch it."
No,
proof positive. But I mentioned earlier that Undyne was my second favorite encounter in the game.
Yeah, Undyne's like whole setup was great.
But my number one favorite encounter, I think, can be avoided, and I'm really glad I didn't. Which was the dummy, the haunted combat dummy.
I did too.
If you break the dummy at the beginning, it comes back and attacks you, or its brother does. Yeah. And that whole bit was just like
I like that.
That was so fun. That was like the most fun I had.
I also really
playing
like
this
the
game.
ghost.
Oh, the depressed
Yeah,
ghost.
he wouldn't like.
Did you guys put on the headphones and like chill out?
I left it on that screen for roughly 45 minutes because like when I realized that I could just sit there and nothing would happen, I just like left it and then went and like made dinner and ate it while just like reading stuff on my phone while that was just going on. Which, God, the Spook Wave song. First of all, hilarious that all this songs sound the same.
Yeah.
But when you put on the Spook Wave song and talk to him, he's like, I love this song. It feels like my whole body is being spooked. Like, that got an audible laugh out of it.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
Break time now?
Yeah, break time now. Give me some cats.
Am I the one who's opening?
Yeah.
Saying stuff? Well, shit.
Say anything.
So, JJ, are we back?
I guess we're back.
Shit,
How do you guys feel about Flowery as an antagonist to this game?
I didn't realize we were back in the castle.
back to the cast.
Flowey as an antagonist?
Samurai cast.
I think it's really effective. I know, I'm a fan. As I stated in the last episode, being the Kingdom Hearts episode, I like the mysterious background mystery antagonist. Well, he's more obviously the antagonist, but he's like in the background most of the time.
I disagree
He
with
doesn't
that
really-
unless I'm blind, in that I thought that did he ever show up in the middle of the game?
You can backtrack and see him in corners and then quickly disappear.
Oh, I never saw that happen.
I saw it once.
So as far as
I
I
saw it
knew,
once as
like
well.
it was a completely out of the like bolt from the blue.
Oh no,
I didn't know
it's,
at all.
from that opening sequence, I knew he was going to be the final boss.
Of course.
I didn't at all.
Yeah.
I just assumed that it was like that. Actually, that sequence probably most informed my decision to start killing things. Is because it was something that started off as being
So
cute
his
and
deception
then
worked on you.
basically we started off as being cute and then turned out to be evil, and so I was like, well, all of these other things are cute and hurt me, so why not also kill them?
This might just
racism,
be
Chad.
Yeah.
This might just be like my version of like just knowing that he was the villain. Like JJ just knew that what's his name in Transistor. Like the Transistor was her boyfriend.
Yeah.
yeah.
How blue was
that somehow just like went right over my head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the flower was too well developed in the opening to like not come back. It's not like he was killed or anything.
He's like any sort of tutorial guy.
No,
No,
I completely
not-
disagree with that.
Yeah, you kidding?
No?
Any tutorial guy? What kind of
There
tutorial
was
guys?
definitely like more there.
Yeah. Like
So,
the
like-
horrifying faces, he had like so many distinct animations.
He was, and it was incredibly memorable too.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that wasn't coming back.
Those smiles, you kidding?
I
He
honestly
did come
didn't-
back for me right after the
Oh,
Teriel scene, so I was
right.
like, okay, this confirms that he's a recurring thing.
None of this at all occurred to me even a little bit. Like, after I had finished looking at him for the first time, he completely left my mind, like, when interpreting the remainder of the game.
Oh my god.
I just
Wow.
didn't even think about him.
Ooh.
Except for as that cool thing that, like, taught me how the combat mechanics work.
How evil the cute people that you murder are.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, I felt fairly justified up until about the midway point when I went on the warp.
Well, as Flowery would say, you idiot.
Yeah. We were eating earlier, and I was just like Flowey was my Emperor Palpatine.
He was.
I just straight went to the dark side, and then had to kill him at the end.
Yeah, the whole Sith relationship.
But yeah,
there.
I think what JJ was about to say was like he stands out in contrast so much to all the other characters.
He tries to convince you that it's like a kill or be killed world, but None of
It's
the other
not
guys,
at all.
like, just hate you. None of the other guys, like, come up to you and be like, you dumbass, I'm gonna steal your soul.
There's some of them that were kind of
He
rude.
does talk about stealing your soul.
Yeah.
But to be fair, other characters do that too, but they do it for other motivations.
Yeah.
Like the spider woman who's like, I'm gonna steal your soul and then
Right.
sell it to this person who wants it so that I can buy...
Most of the
Limo.
characters do have like this level of naivety to them,
Yeah.
where like they seem like they're like being puppet mastered a bit.
Yeah. The reason that I brought up Flower initially, though, is because he's established at the very beginning to everyone but Chad Rothermond, Seeker of Darkness.
Yes. Darth Chad.
Yeah, Darth Fartley. Destined to bring balance to the force.
For the record, yeah, my character name was Fartley.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's in a long tradition of always naming protagonists in single-player games like the most immature, stupid names imaginable.
Obviously.
I can't wait to go back to Phantom Hourglass and pick up on the adventures of Bud Hole.
Not respecting this enough to continue to ask questions about the adventures of Bud Hole. I'll instead
Or Fartley.
point out the thing that I was trying to get at with Flowery from the beginning, which is that he's not a secret antagonist. He's like a weird meta antagonist.
Yeah.
Like he's all the other characters, as shown most clearly in like the final boss fight, sort of resist you by like circumstances or by like what your values like intersecting and conflicting with each other and what you both think are different and important. But he's the only one who's like actively trying to like fuck with your life.
Well, yeah, that's if you like if you're taking into account like the final like bullet hell boss battle with him.
Yeah.
Then like the conceit of the game is that in combat the heart represents your soul.
Mm.
And like where other characters do things that could hurt your soul tangentially, they're just doing things in general. But he actively, there's no box, you don't exist in this like existential realm. He is actively attacking your soul.
Yeah.
Like he clearly has more power over it than other like garden variety enemies.
He does claim to be God. So.
That's true. Yeah. He's almost God.
He's very nearly.
Oh God, yeah, he says that at the beginning of the game too.
Yeah.
I completely just apparently lost that.
That's also it's a little. Generally, no characters are important when they claim that they used to be God until you showed up and stole your powers from them.
Oh. But if video games have taught me anything, is that God can be killed.
True. Japanese video games.
Right, yeah. Fire Emblem specifically.
I was thinking more like God of War.
God of War also
where you
kill gods.
exclusively kill gods.
And that's a Western video game.
You've got me there.
Right, what were we saying?
He was a
He claimed
horrifying,
to be God.
weird meta antagonist, and I wanted to know if that's sort of a thing that stands to be repeated, or how you see that as valuable compared to the development of other antagonists. Because he was not developed much.
Right.
It's not our playthroughs.
I don't think it's necessarily like a good or a bad thing. I think it really suits this game, though. It's
Right.
really effective in how it's done here, and if it depends on how it's done. Like another game could try to do this and fail miserably at it. It would be stupid.
Right.
But the way this game does it, it works pretty well, I think.
Yeah, as a Kojima fan, the like fourth wall breaking and like the meta humor of this game, I appreciated it. So like him as like the surprise antagonist in that he showed up without any other development and just took the final boss throne.
Yeah.
Seemed totally appropriate in terms of this game is basically a huge non sequitur anyway. It's just things are loosely related. You how do I get from the snow world, Snowden, to Hotland, the hot world? Oh well, obviously you get on the boat that's actually a cat, run by the guy in the cloak, that stands up and runs along the water. Like, not like it just doesn't surprise me that something completely outlandish like that would happen. And so, yeah,
Okay.
it seems appropriate.
I get that.
Plus, I mean, the boss was fucking cool.
Yes.
It is really sweet.
Yeah.
Got it. Distinguishing him further, all the surprise horror of that moment. Ugh. Those eyes, too.
Yeah.
I'm sad that you actually guys told me that this was something that had been repeated before, because that caught me off guard pretty hard.
Well, I mean, it's definitely not something, one, that you would expect to see in a game with this aesthetic.
Yeah.
And two, like an RPG. While the game has bullet hell elements to it, it is not a traditional bullet hell game.
Also, kind of like seemed like a nod to Earthbound to me, where
the final bosses
Gygus is like horrifying.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
totally
And
off the aesthetic design of the rest of the game.
You like walk up like a bridge of like intestines to
Yeah.
fight a fetus. You know.
Yeah, he's definitely the classic, like, video game abomination.
Yep.
But within just that boss fight specifically, too, I thought it was really good and important that wasn't a turn-based boss fight.
Right.
That
Mhm.
lends itself...
It's the way that it really like takes the mechanics and pushes them to like the
ludicrous zone.
extent that it does makes it like an incredibly satisfying final boss.
Because there's no talking to him.
Oh man, that's an oh shit moment the first time you fight him. Like, it makes you want to be like turn it off and be like, oh, I'll try this again tomorrow. And it's that like intimidating the first time.
Yeah. Like I was describing when we were watching it just a little bit ago, it's like the whole, like, when you hit the boss and it deals 1 damage, that's
yeah.
like a classic, like, video game, like, there's a different way to, like, about this, and then the game doesn't give you any, like, menu options or any other way to do it, so you just kind of go and you know that eventually it's going to, like, something is going to happen that's going to change the fight. But then, after all of the other souls have had their, like, time in the sun, and it goes back and, like, you fight and it deals, like, 200 damage, but, like, his health bar is massive.
Yeah.
That was, like, truly intimidating, where I was like, I don't know if this is a thing I can do.
Right.
It does seem like this will take forever to beat. It's really not that bad.
Right. I don't
But,
actually know if you can fail.
You can.
Yeah, it probably just
But I mean, like, you
crashes
go...
and boots again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's those checkpoints that you go back to.
Right.
If you make it out so far.
So, yeah. But the final boss is
Much
okay,
more
just super
manageable
effective.
than it initially seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you want. Because they were trying to go from a shift of this is impossible to this is barely possible, and I've got to be a hero.
Right.
And even though at the initial shift we're sort of cynical enough about games to be like, oh, 1 health will a scripted thing will happen that will allow me to win, so that doesn't land as much as it could necessarily when you see the number.
Right.
The second part definitely lands when the scripted thing that allows you to win happens, and you've still got to do something.
Yeah. And it's like, this is, like, clearly the result of somebody making a video game who obviously loves video games
Oof.
and, like, knows them inside and out. Like, this guy, like, we purport to be at least, like, knowledgeable about what we're talking about, but, like, this guy probably...
He is the game master.
Like, this is somebody who, like, just really likes the art form.
Yeah. Within the context of Flower's development further, the fact that the crash happens at the very, very end of the game on his appearance, I think a really important step to take. I'm asking you guys this for the first time. Did the game crash every time you quit with you guys too?
Every time you quit the game?
Yeah.
When you quit, it takes about, I think, like a second, maybe a little bit longer. When you quit, it says quitting in the top left
Right.
of an ellipsis, and then the game just goes away. Like, the's no menu or anything. It just,
Oh.
like, goes out.
Then this was
I was trying to take a screenshot and accidentally hit the back button on the controller, and it, like,
Oops.
it crashed.
Oh, yeah, I never quit the game because I beat it in one sitting.
True game lover, Andy Kennick. But, yeah, for me, and I guess this is just an unrelated problem, but I thought it was a cool intentional thing, every time I'd quit the game, it would crash. Every time. So I thought they were using that so to make it so that there was like a hint when the game crashed after his final fake final boss appearance that it was an intentional decision.
Maybe
not
it's because you save scummed. They were like, "Fuck you, scum."
Well, the save scumming, like the fact that it calls out when you save scum, and as we
I
just
think that's awesome.
That is literally what made me mention the game to you guys. It was that moment at the end of the Terry fought that was like, this is like a game that not only obviously takes this like huge inspiration from the entire medium, but also has like a meta villain that is willing to comment on the things that you do within like the game itself as a game.
Right.
I knew that it was going somewhere, or desperately hoped that it was going somewhere amazing, and I think I was right about that. I mean, I thought I was right about that, but I can't speak for either of you.
Or for like people as like a whole group.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a game that's like designed for a specific group of people.
Yeah.
And I think that
Certain
we all
audience.
basically fall into it.
We do.
Do you think you could appreciate it if you didn't get a lot of like the ridiculous references that we also?
I think that this game loses a lot if the meta humor is lost on you. Like
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
Like as adults, I think an adult would not like this game if they didn't get that stuff. But I could see kids loving this game.
Right.
Regardless.
It's not all of the jokes are like references to.
Right. There are some things that are just genuinely like well written, but like I don't know. It's even barring the references which require like a specific experience set. I feel like a lot of the game related stuff. If this was like for some reason your first video game that you picked up, I feel like you would be at a complete loss. Like I don't think you would find it as funny. I know you wouldn't be able to beat it. Like if this was your first
game. I
game.
feel like also like just people who like arcade games because of the combat. It kind of feels arcadey to me.
Yeah,
like might like this. Like I don't know. I can see like certain groups of people liking it regardless.
I mean, at the beginning, it's certainly easy enough to be generally accessible, but by the end, it doesn't seem that way.
Right. Well, I mean, like,
yeah.
Well, like for example, like I feel like a joke that I guess didn't really think was that funny, but when you first get into Snowden, the first building is a like a trader, like a shop, and it has like the typical buy, sell, talk, exit options. But throughout the game, whenever you try to sell something, they say like, "Oh, we don't want your junk. Like we're trying to sell you stuff, not buy things back." And like somebody just getting to that who didn't have experience with other RPGs would be like, "What? Like this? Why does this function even exist?" That's the mindset you have to put yourself in when you look at this from somebody who doesn't know games. Is that this game is subverting things that they don't even know what like the step one is. So you get like I feel like you would get lost so quickly.
Yeah. But like just because they don't like they can't get everything about it on the same level that like we do doesn't mean like they can't still enjoy the game.
Right, I guess.
Like even if you don't get any of that, like it's not gonna like make you like the game less. You're not gonna be like, "Oh, I'm so confused." That
in fact, they might even be more likely to like spare every thing because they're not used to just beating everything up.
Like you said before, this game is not like Spec Ops that's like trying very hard to make some kind of meta commentary on the way that like how games specifically treat these things. You can apply it like that, but the game doesn't hit you over the head with it in the same way that other things in the genre and like other genres do.
Right. What
this game is just trying to do is just create a game world populated by actual humanized characters, like completely. It never takes the like random mook excuse. There are no red shirts in Undertale.
Right.
There are just people. And I think anyone coming into the game fresh who can go through that arc that I did and that you ignored, either of those two things are valid in that sense, to come to the decision of whether or not they want to like treat these creatures that are legitimately threatening to them as like human beings or not, or like things that need to be respected in that way. You don't need, a degree in gaming to be able to understand that. All you need is all you need is to be a person. All you need is to be a person who interacts with other human beings and understands that sometimes there are trade-offs between treating other people in a way that we see as fair and treating them in a way that furthers our own goals. And that there may not necessarily be like a true good or evil side of that fight. We just might not know what's truly important to us.
Right. Well, I feel like the point that I'm trying to make is not necessarily that the person wouldn't understand like how to exist within Undertale's world. It's that the commentaries and the jokes and like a lot of the existence of characters would be lost on somebody who doesn't have experience.
That's the thing
games.
is they wouldn't know that though.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying, but I feel like you just wouldn't enjoy this game as much if that element wasn't there.
See, I disagree. I feel like there are some people who wouldn't, but there's plenty of people who still would.
Well, like, I wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't enjoy this game on a purely mechanical standpoint. Like,
I mean, like, if you don't have to, like, you could still enjoy the characters in the world independent of, like, all those jokes, I think.
Like, I didn't have to know what, like, Sunder plane was referencing to find a plane that attacks you as funny.
Yeah, like, you don't have to get the jokes to, like, enjoy the world and think it's, like, goofy and colorful and funny.
I don't know. I don't know if I would have found it funny. Like, and it's so, like...
But you don't have to find it funny to enjoy it.
Okay, we're getting into, like, a very subjective conversation.
Yeah, like...
The level of enjoyment of this game, I feel, would be significantly diminished if you didn't know games. Because it's such, like, it's so heavily layered on.
Yeah.
Like, from, just from the bottom up, like, your base mechanics are basically jokes on other games.
Right. No.
And it builds into a layer upon layer of jokes based on games.
I don't agree that the base mechanics are jokey in the same way that a lot of the interactions are. Individual mechanics in some of the special fights can be jokes on mechanics, like the previously mentioned papyrus dating scene.
Right.
But, like...
Yeah, like somebody like who didn't know anything about games would like that sequence.
I feel like this is a hypothetical that we do not have the tools to explore.
But we may
There's
soon.
still plenty of humor in the game to enjoy that has like nothing to do with the mechanics.
And the mechanics themselves...
Or, I mean, like, video games in general.
Right.
They serve a purpose separate than making metagame commentaries. As we discussed in, like, before the break, the mechanics serve to create the same kind of, like, rise and fall of action that you experience in any kind of good conflict, and to always give you the option to, like, stand back and communicate with the individuals across from you. The mechanic set that they chose is there to try and always give you the chance to give you that nonviolent approach that is not like the constant bullet hell horror experience like the final boss is.
Right.
Right, because there's no... Can you imagine trying to like go through that sequence and instead of trying to press like save, you just tried and didn't ever get hit?
Right.
That would be a bit more grating. I just think the mechanics exist to further the way that the characters that you interact are humanized. They don't exist as a way to, like, make fun of Earthbound and how Earthbound didn't personify all the things as well as this game does.
Right. Well, I mean, that's not even what I'm... I understand what you're saying. I just think that, like, not necessarily that it's a joke or that it's a meta-commentary on, like, the level of, like, what, like, Hotline Miami or, as you said, Spec Ops The Line is trying to, like, make, like, a profound statement about what games do, in as much as I treat it like a parody, where I feel like its humor and its tone come from what it does differently than traditional games. And that, like, I feel like without that, the game becomes so much less deep.
Yeah, I feel like...
And, like, verges on being, like, impossible to interpret.
Yeah, see, I think that's how it is for you. Whereas, like, I feel like the average person... Like, you could give the average person, like, A Link to the Past and this, and they would be able to enjoy them both for the same reasons. Like, oh, it's colorful, there's, like, quirky, weird characters.
Wait, if that person is 11...
It's a fun fantasy world. That's what I'm saying. It's like, there's plenty of people who like approach games with that simple of a mindset and would still enjoy this game even if they didn't get any of that stuff.
We're going to be able to test this real soon because I get about once per year the ability to force Rachel to play a video game. So I am picking this year's pick will be Undertale.
Okay.
And we'll see how she thinks about it. So far, the only hit with her has been Civ 5, so we'll see.
Man, what a boring person.
Yeah, so boring.
No offense to any Civ players, it's just not our cup of tea. Mine and Andy specifically.
I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't know. I mean, I just think it's designed for an audience. I don't think it's as specific an audience as something like the Stanley Parable is. And it's just like, it's not as widely like reaching as something like a Call of Duty.
Well, yeah, I can agree with
simple.
that statement.
Yeah. I guess those are the two extremes,
Right,
but like,
yeah.
I think it's closer to the Stanley Parable side than it is to the Call of Duty side.
I feel like I would disagree because I think the game can be that.
We'll see.
But I don't think it necessarily is that.
Alright. So what's next on the agenda?
To jump back to what you said forever ago, Chad, about you feeling like in the case of the bosses that beating them is more of a puzzle than the same way that it's like just learning about individual facts of the character.
Right.
I think those situations, you're correct that they're different, and that it's not you, like, for example, learning that this ice guy really likes his hat and then, like, complimenting his hat so that it'll stop hitting you or something.
Right.
What it is, it's supposed to be a statement about you and about, like, the determination within the terms of the games and the wills of these, like, two different people with very strong goals coming to interact with each other. It's showing that, like, you cannot be moved. Because as someone who actually went through the pacifist side, the only one that I can remember that was really, like, a puzzle in any, like, meaningful sense of the word was Undine, and that was only because I never fleed or, like, considered fleeing an option because the dialogue convinced me otherwise.
Right.
The other ones were literally just being like, no, I'm not going to fight. And I just keep pressing the don't fight button and then surviving their attacks over and over and over again. The longest of which I think might have actually been Teriel, if I remember correctly. I mean, there are other pacifist things you can do, but they make it easier. They don't just make it possible. Like, for example, the Metaton fight, you pacifist that by getting his ratings high enough.
Right.
Yeah. But that was really obvious because there was literally a score on the screen and things that you did affected that.
The Taro one actually, because Andy was there when I played through that part of the game, and like, the Taro fight was one that I went into not wanting to fight Taro.
Yeah.
Which seems to make sense. Even if you do kill the monsters in the dungeon, this person has been nothing but nice to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, why would you kill
Unless
them?
you're me.
Unless you're Andy.
You thought she was evil.
My plan, probably just like yours, was to try and get her health low enough and then spare her after she couldn't stop me.
Nope. I started the fight, ran away, and then went to bed. Because, like, she's like, just go to bed. And I was like, okay, that seems like a viable option now. So, like, she was, like, fighting me, like, hit me down to half health, and I was like, this is, like, hard, and I'm not getting any immediate feedback from, like, the check, or the action options, so I just chose run, went all the way back, down the hallway, up the stairs, into my room, and went to sleep. And then a dialogue box came up on the screen and was like, please keep going. Like, a dialogue box told me that I couldn't just not do anything.
What?
Yeah. Like, a box with an unknown origin came up on the screen and said, like, please, partly, continue your journey or something.
Wait, seriously?
I'm 100% serious.
It
may have been, like, implied to be Tariel. I didn't, like, pay attention to the voice.
That doesn't make any sense either.
Could have been Flowey.
Could have been Flowey egging me on.
I don't know. Either way, I don't like that, and that's definitely a one-off exercise. Because otherwise, this game is very, very good at allowing all of your actions to sort of have like implications, and there's just like with the Pyrus sequence. There's a lot of really deep rabbit holes here, and the game accepts a whole lot of different actions as valid, including not doing things.
Not as true as you may think.
Why?
I was trying... See, one of the reasons that I ended up on a violent playthrough is that early in the game I was testing the game's, like, limits and mechanics. As I like to do, I, like, completely naturally stumbled upon the alternate ending to Far Cry 4. where if you just stay, when he tells you to wait, if you just wait there,
Mm-hmm.
he'll come back and take you to where you're trying to go, and then the credits roll. That experience, when Tario was like, don't wander off, and like, call me if you need help, I just put the controller down and waited for 5 minutes?
I think I made you pick the controller back up and keep playing.
Yeah, because I was just like, I wonder if they will reward me for just obeying what Tario says to do.
Okay, fair. That's a fair one.
But
what I was going to point out was the house sequence in which the game still gives you the nudge by always having the dialogue box option to ask when you can leave, but there's certainly no dialogue box that popped up if you tried to go to sleep again. You can just stay there forever if you wanted to.
Yeah, I remember you saying you felt like it was going to be one of those boss fights, like a scripted one where you have to lose.
yeah. But it was kind of a scripted one where you had to win.
Yeah, it's weird that we all three went into that fight with completely different mindsets.
Yeah, that was the kind of game.
Because I thought she was gonna be insane. I thought it was as I was fighting her, there was gonna be a mental deterioration where she was like, "Don't leave,"
the voice light.
Turn into a horrible monster.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know why I was so suspicious of that the whole time.
No, it's flowery, and that's fair within context. The other enemies that you encounter aren't nearly as impactful as the initial stage was.
Right.
You're still fearful, and that sequence is there to make you fearful.
Mm-hmm.
It's good that you felt that way. It makes you uncertain. It makes you not want to, really just refuse to fight her, like I eventually had to do after I regretted my decision. But yeah, having to hit the button 30 times wasn't.
What did you kill?
What did I? Oh, a frogget.
You wouldn't have just save scummed at that point to go back and just start over and be I mean, if you're gonna go for the full pacifist playthrough,
But that wasn't.
it kind of was. It was your motivation going through.
It was, but
I feel like it had to have become that. You couldn't have just felt genuine
I felt remorse after that sequence for killing the frogget, but it was just far back enough that just a utilitarian stance. I was no, I did that. I didn't understand what I was doing, and it's valid that I can admit that.
Right. See, my whole thing was that I just went into the game saying that things that I know about the game and things that I know about the mechanics of the game were not going to color how I play it. I was just going to play it like somebody playing a video game.
Yeah.
And so I just went with the most pragmatic thing possible.
Honestly,
I feel like it's kind of the same.
Right, yeah. I also never once felt bad for killing anything in the game.
Some of the enemies I outright enjoyed killing.
Yeah.
So
the whole
Sunder Plan being
I know.
good.
The whole premise is about the game assaults you with humor and stupid little features of the world that make you draw these kind of connections.
But it's such
you never cared ever.
Well, I mean, yeah, I cared about. That's why I had the Warpath state. That was just the immersion. That's where you fucking That's where you have the clippers and you accidentally nick and dig in into your scalp and you're well, guess I'm gonna have to be bald or look like an idiot. So I just took the fact that I had made mistakes. I was I just have to run through the rest of this because there's no redeeming myself.
Yeah, unless they were characters that had models in the world that you could walk up and talk to, I never talked to the characters in battle.
God. Jesus.
I did, and there were some that I felt affectionate toward, and others that I didn't.
I always went straight to the fight option. And
straight to the murder.
Yeah, it's so difficult, and I feel like this is a testament to the point the game is trying to get across is that it's so difficult to make a player think about mobs the same way that it speaks about named characters.
The point was not that it's hard for us to do that. The point's supposed to be that we're acclimated to never do that, and that's horrible.
Also, the thing, I didn't want to not kill anything, because, I didn't want to get, later in the game and, not be able to beat a boss because I was level 1.
Right.
The game, but I mean...
I know it's possible, but
No, but the game is, open about the fact that it's possible. It's a game about trying to force you to always have, faith in the ability to do that. That's what most of Teriel's dialogue about.
Right, yeah, I know. It's just something about my initial experience in the tutorial dungeon made me just not care about the interact with mechanic. And I think it was the derpiness of the frogs. And like I really just was like, fuck these things.
How'd you feel about
like I didn't think they were funny. I didn't like them or think they were cute or have any reason to want to not kill them for experience.
Right. I mean, how did you feel about the final Froggets in the last level?
What?
The final Froggets. The different Froggets that were like advanced Froggets.
I don't remember.
Dude, maybe if you kill all of the enemies,
there are
no final Froggets because they never got to that point. Did you also not fight astigmatisms or what was the
greater mold big or something?
mold big BYGG.
None of those things sound familiar to me.
If that's like a secret layer that we didn't know about, that's amazing.
Yes,
I might just be
Kudos.
forgetting character names, but those things don't sound familiar to me.
You would remember Final Froggets.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Their Froggets on fire.
Well, yeah, no, I didn't see any of that.
Huh. I don't know. Like, I thought that the dialogue options were like funny, and I enjoyed like what like they gave me, but I never felt like every enemy deserved to be spared. There were definitely just some that did anyway.
That's not a question you ask, you monsters.
Yeah.
You don't walk onto the street and go, oh, this person that's making my life harder deserve to live.
Well, I mean, but the fact that they name it mercy and sparing is sort of like that implies that the alternative is murder, which is not the alternative in real life.
Oh, yes, it is.
But
I mean, in real life, your alternative you don't have the option of murder this guy or spare this guy. There's an indifferent middle ground that you can choose.
There's a important distinction we haven't made here. If that guy walked up to you and just attacked you,
right, like punched you in the face,
you would probably fight back.
Right, but there's a distinction between fighting back and murdering him. I think the game does validate. While the Gradients it does not.
The enemies will murder you.
That's true.
So if the guy who came up to you on the street tries to murder you, will you murder him?
If someone's
in
having
self-defense?
But that's not in self-defense anymore because you have the spare option once you get their health low enough.
Well, you have it in real life.
Which is the only time that the spare option makes sense from a
self-defense.
linguistic standpoint.
What?
Which is the only time that the spare option makes sense from a linguistic standpoint.
God. Yes.
Because I don't treat it like, if somebody offends me and I let it slide, I'm not like, I'm sparing you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care enough about what you said to do anything about it.
Like, if there were ever any enemies that didn't attack me, I wouldn't have attacked them back.
Right, because the game gives you that option.
The enemies who do attack me, I'm going to attack them and kill them because they'll do the same to me.
No, that's your horrid monster of a being.
No. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, oh, but most of them are doing it either like on accident or from like a misguided like standpoint. Right?
Something similar, sure.
Okay. There are definitely enemies that outright attack you for the sake of attacking you.
Yeah.
Sunderplane being a great example, who's so flustered by you that it feels the need to attack you. That is a physical assault on your being. I feel like you're justified in attacking back there.
I'm not talking about attacking back. I'm talking about killing them. And that's different. The game validates that.
The game doesn't have the verbs necessary for you to, like, teach it a lesson.
No,
you hit it
that's
and
not
then
the point
spare.
either.
Okay.
The point is that when you hit it, you get its health low enough, and then when it's no longer a threat to you, you can just leave.
But it's still a threat. I mean,
you can just leave even out of the blue. You just always have the flee option.
Right, I've never tried doing that, like, full health. I don't know if you can just, like, bail on a fight.
You can.
Like, but is there... Can you fail to leave?
No. I assumed
that it would be like every other RPG, and you could fail to leave.
I could just be wrong. I could have a sample bias
because that's another thing. Is like I don't want to just like try to spare them and try to flee and have them not work and just have the enemy killed.
Then you're still just murdering out of expediency.
What?
If your problem is not... There are situations in which I can never flee, but there are situations in which I could flee, but it's hard. You're still killing them out of expediency.
Well, like, I'm just kind of, like, describing my thought process as I was playing.
Right.
And I guess the tutorial, like interacting with the frogs, made me like not want to test my options, so I just fought everything. Unless there was reason not to,
right?
In my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that the game, while it sets up that your like ability to solve things non-violently, I feel as though the game presents you with violence, and then you respond to it in the way that you've been like attuned to. And if the statement is that video games, which I don't necessarily think this game is trying to make a statement about video games.
Sure, we've established that.
Right. But I think that if the statement is that we're attuned to violence, then there should be a, like, show remorse option as well.
Agreed.
Because I felt like I was in a place where even when the game got to the point where it was clear that, like, it didn't want me killing things just wantonly, I didn't have the option to take it back without restarting the game. So,
and you are told kill or be killed at the very beginning.
By a horrible, soulless monster.
Yeah, but like you don't know necessarily like how that's gonna play out. Like even though I said I assumed he would be the final villain, like you don't know. The game could have pulled like a switch on you.
Same ambiguity is there. It's intentionally set up to be placed there, but it's attempting to test your ability to have faith in that.
Regardless, I think that the fact that if you kill anything, it doesn't give you the option of, like, just like you didn't get the pacifist option despite going through everything non-violently, makes it so the game doesn't really give you, like, it doesn't allow you to develop. It just, like, it's a Boolean, did you kill anything? Yes, you're a murderer.
I disagree with that, too. Because development isn't just defined. Like, development is not like overwriting things. I agree, as we stated earlier, that there should have been recognition of remorse, but, for example, I think it would have been valid if there was a dialogue option where you, like, told Undine that you, like, regretted your actions, but she still came for you.
Right.
That is the circumstance that I'm okay with. It's not, I don't need, like, someone to literally, like, absolve me of my crimes in order for my future actions to, like, lack moral weight anymore. Like, killing is still wrong, even if you have killed, and even if you will forever have been the person who killed someone in cold blood.
I think there's a distinction, because you killed one thing in cold blood, and at the point where I had my realization, I had probably killed close to, like, 30 things.
Who cares?
That's a pretty significant difference, number of murders.
Yes, but that doesn't change what a murder is. That doesn't make murder better.
People in real life have been absolved of murder. But this game is like, you killed a frog? Like, ugh.
Agreed. Should have had the gradient, shouldn't have the ability of forgiveness, but that doesn't make... I'm glad, in some sense, that the game, at the very least, on the opposite scale of what we've been discussing before, I'm glad that the game is never like, oh, you murdered that frog, it's okay. So many of the mechanics of this game are about permanence of action. One of, like, the biggest points of, like, Flowey as the crazy meta version who remembers all the things that you do, and, as we just learned now, specifically the ability for the, like, genocide run to stay with you forever, is that the game is trying to force you to understand that your actions are permanent and that you don't have the same kind of comforts that you often do in the same, like, video game save load system.
Right.
It's very, very strongly trying to tell you that if you did a bad thing, it will stay with you forever, at the very least.
You know, it just occurred to me, like, literally just now, those save load points don't do anything.
What do you mean?
When you quit, or not when you quit, when you die, you go to checkpoints.
Oh.
So the save load is literally just there for when you exit the game and return. You'll boot to a save point.
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah, in the game itself, all they do is refill your
quit
health.
The game.
Yeah. I only quit like twice, so that's kind of wild. But no, I mean, I don't know. I'm basically at this point trying to defend that I am not a murderer, even though I clearly am a murderer.
I'm totally a murderer.
Yeah.
In this game.
You're also a murderer in this
if you're
game.
trying to kind of like, if you're trying, to like kind of
I forgive you.
like kind of like get inside the mind of the character.
Yeah, some HC
like if you were
RPG.
like dropped into a dungeon and were attacked by like mutant frogs, you would probably kill one of them.
Doesn't make it okay.
To defend. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just
Why does
like
that not make it okay? You're
I'm like
attacked to attack back.
That's not what I'm saying.
I'm defending my actions.
Okay, let Eddie get his
and yeah, like
piece.
why because like I feel like if I were dropped into this situation and like I was going, I had a stick to defend myself with. I was going through this strange world with all these monsters that just kept attacking me. I would probably defend myself in the way that I did in this game, and that is why I did it. The game.
Sure, you can't make the move. Okay, you can make maybe the move to causal explanation.
And I'm not saying that what I did was right, and I'm not saying what I did was wrong.
Hate you guys.
I'm just saying what I did was reasonable.
Right, yeah, I think it's reasonable is fair. I don't know. I think that if you play through the game the way that I played through the game, or largely the way Andy played through the game, maybe play around with it a little bit more.
You definitely played around with it more.
That the game expresses what it wants to it express at, like, its peak level. If, like, through the game you discover what the game is trying to say, you are impacted by it a lot more than if you just, like, roll in with it. Because that's just, like, at that point they're preaching to the choir, right? Like, if you think that it's not okay to kill froggets and then don't, then you're just like, the game isn't giving you any new information.
Right. That's why I thought that me killing the frogget was an important thing that I should keep, because it was me learning the mechanics of the situation and making a mistake.
But drastically reducing the amount of stuff we can talk about on this podcast. Think about others, Jed. I'm glad we had that conversation.
Frogcast.
I've said, I think, on the cast before, that I'm the kind of person who, like, can appreciate a game for just giving me, like, a new way to make someone's head explode like a cantaloupe.
You have.
Yeah.
So, like, it's, like, the furthest thing from my mind, usually, from, like trying to game the game's mechanics. Like, I usually just want to have as much fun with
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I just kind of go into it without...
Right. And I think this game wanted you to. And I think that this game speaks volumes for maybe not the mental break that I had. Was probably not the intended consequence.
No.
But I think that, like, at least pretending to cause you to feel remorse is something the game succeeded in doing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had the oh shit moment where I was just like, I just gotta get out of here. My second half of the game was basically the run to Mexico. Yeah. After you, like, commit a crime. You're like, I didn't know, I'm sorry. I just gotta get out of here.
I felt like all of, like, the intended, I think, feelings in all the boss fights. You know, like, yeah, decide whether or not I should spare them. But, like, with regular enemies, I didn't even think twice about it.
See, with the boss fights, it's just like, I didn't usually try to spare them because and I didn't know about this until you were explaining how you spare Undyne.
Yeah.
Is that, because in none of the boss fights, with the exception of Papyrus, who notably I did spare, your action commands don't have an immediate effect.
The axe?
Yeah, like,
oh yeah,
it might do something. It usually does something bad, like, to you, but like, they might do something minor, but, like, on most of the enemies and stuff, like, it's very apparent in, like, the feedback they give you that you're having an effect. I guess a boss, it makes sense you want it to be harder, but, like, because it didn't give me a reaction, a lot of the times I just thought that the things I was choosing were not viable options.
I get that.
And so if you check an empty trash can multiple times,
you
don't suddenly expect it to have something in it.
Most of the time, sparing doesn't even actually require you to do the axe, which is something that I eventually had to learn.
Right.
I can get why that confusion would exist. But I actually think that's important, because it makes sense that, like, these, like, very small casual interactions, like, commenting an icicle guy on his hat, will be able to change outcomes when you're just randomly meeting people in a field. But all of the boss fights, you're against people who have established to some people like a good reason for like coming after you and like trying to take your head. So it makes sense that you're not going to be able to just like straight talk them out of it in a lot of games. You just have to be defiant and have the will to show that you can neither be killed nor will kill them until they change their tune or give up on the attempt.
Right, and mechanically speaking, the game does a fairly it makes it possible because like in a pacifist playthrough, you're going to be using healing items a lot more, and they still give you gold for solving an encounter.
God, that's an interesting idea. If this game didn't even give you gold,
it would be borderline impossible. You just have to be the best bullet hell player ever.
Right, they'd have to design it differently, but I like that idea in the abstract of giving you literally no reward. But, might be an idealistic goal.
I don't even really know what the game doesn't need justification for the things that it does because of the abstraction of the world that it's set in. Mm-hmm. So
it's it doesn't need to tip. Like, sorry, I broke your leg.
Yeah, or like take my money, just don't hit me anymore. Or because that's not always true either. So
we're under the grounds. We have lots of gold.
Yeah. Oh god. So final thoughts. Any? All? Speak now.
I don't know. I think we kind of
we got way more into this than I thought we were going to. So
you don't have? Do you have anything?
Not really.
No. Well,
I mean, maybe after you say something, I think of something.
Yeah.
I still processing this because I beat it so recently. Absolutely, one of my favorite, if not the favorite game I've played this year. Probably going to make it on my top 10 list.
Man, you guys' lists keep changing as this goes on.
My list was static for 5 years. This is just this year being amazing.
So, if you're listening out there, if you want to experience great new things, start a podcast.
Yeah.
Woo!
Though weirdly, that was your choice of a game to play, and you really liked it, so you probably would have stumbled upon it anyway. And same with Transistor, actually. You got Shadow out of it.
Yeah.
And
Life is Strange.
Life is Strange is number 14
I guess
on my top
my final thoughts then would be I didn't expect to like it much less than the two of you. I thought it was a good game. I enjoyed it. I obviously played it all in one sitting.
Right.
Yeah.
But I felt like the pacing of the gameplay was a little shaky at parts with all the NPC interruptions that kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
All the similarities to Earthbound kind of knocked it down a peg for me as well. And really, what was her name? Alphys or whatever.
Yeah, Alphys.
Texting you every 5 seconds on your phone was really annoying. But so there was. Then I don't want to criticize it too much because it's obviously a passion project for 2 people.
Yeah,
it's damn impressive and it is really good. So, but those are my final thoughts.
Yeah.
I guess
this is apparently a new segment we're gonna do. It's just final thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only thing that I wanted to say that I just didn't have an organic time to bring up is that we didn't talk about it a whole lot, and Andy actively thought that it made the game slightly worse. But I thought that the aesthetic design of this game was I think it looked really good.
I mean, it looked good. I just don't like that it's pretty much just lifted from
Earthbound.
Game.
Yeah, from just SNES games in general. I don't know. Something about it, a lot of RPGs, the aesthetic style turns me off. Because that's a lot of what drives you forward in the game is sort of what you're seeing on screen. And this game being very simple, but keeping things different and interesting enough. Kind of maps were small, characters were well detailed. It was, I don't know. I just thought it was incredibly effective and kept me actually playing the game.
All right, what are we playing next week?
2 weeks from now.
Or, I mean, I always do that.
You do.
Such a lie.
What are we playing next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about... it's going to be our first ever Bro Clip Friendcast.
Bro Clip.
Bro Clip Friendcast Episode 1.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. We're going to be... we're going to be talking about Trine, a puzzle platformer that we all sat down and played simultaneously.
One J.J. Martinez says it's the potatoes of video games.
That's why it's Revenge of the Sith, because you two, based on this episode, are clearly Sith. So you take revenge upon me by just destroying me on all my opinions of Trine.
Yeah, well, we just wanted to take that line from you so you couldn't use it on that.
Yeah. I've taken it from you.
No!
Oh, you're Sith?
Yeah.
Oh, the best Darth man.
Thanks everybody for listening. If you want to get a hold of us, we have our email account at noclippodcast@gmail.com. You can tweet us on Twitter at noclippodcast, and we have our website noclippodcast.com where you can find all of our episodes, our backlog, a small about page, and you can leave comments and stuff. And there's a link on there to our YouTube page, which is where most people actually listen to this. So,
Yay.
yay!
Like, comment, and subscribe. All 2 people who might watch it.
But really, guys, I hate you both, and you're both human trash.
Okay. That was the tagline to some 90s movie.
Probably.
I can't remember what it is.
Podcast Part 2, The Reckoning.
Podcast Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. House 2, The Second Story.
You gonna talk, or are we just gonna keep using,
References?
yeah, Podcast 2, Judgment Day?
I'm trying.
So...
Also, I'm glad that it finally came out that I hate all of you.